Welcome back to Daytime. Well, you know what? It often starts with one small idea that grows, and we're talking about those renovation projects at home. Well, that's when you want to turn to the experts to help walk you through it all, and Pioneer Craftsman Limited certainly has the expert team in place to do that for you. One of the team is joining us today. Jennifer Daynard is back, design consultant project manager with Pioneer Craftsman Limited. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You know what? I kind of laughed when I saw this story because it made me think of the first home that Roger and I were in, and the entire kitchen renovation that took place that started with a comment that was as simple as, you know what, maybe we should move the fridge from there to there. And all of a sudden, cupboards started flying.
Famous
floors
last
were
words.
ripped up, and it completely changed the room. But that one idea sort of turned us to looking at the room itself, and you know what, it just made sense to do everything all at once instead of piece by piece.
That's just it, and that's very much where these clients came from, is that they had plans to do a kitchen renovation, and generally our clientele comes to us through referrals from previous clients, and in this particular case it happened to be our cabinet maker that referred them, and they had kind of gotten the ball rolling and had started thinking about how do we want to make changes in our kitchen, had sort of a preconceived idea as to what they thought that needed to be to work for their needs, and had gone to them and said, can you draw this up for us, give us a price, that kind of thing. And then really once they saw it drawn up, went, you know, I don't know that this is really doing what we wanted. And so the cabinet company just said, well, why don't you call Pioneer? They'll help you out with it. And definitely we were able to then become a part of the process and help them through analyzing all that.
Because it's so much easier to be in that initial process as opposed to, you know, put the cupboards up and then think, okay, but we need something more, and then have to kind of work around what's there, or even worse, take down what you've already done and change it.
That's right. We don't want a Band-Aid treatment. We want something that's long-term, that's not simply a matter of fixing something up, hoping that it's going to take you the distance. So.
Well, why don't we start taking a look at some of the before pictures here, and you can talk to us a little bit about the clients and what it was they were looking for. This is a before.
This is before. This is their dining room, and it's very typical dining room, living room with a little bit of separation between it. They felt the dining room was a little closed in, and that they didn't use the dining room the way they wanted to, and likewise their dinette was a part of their kitchen, and they felt they didn't really need to keep two distinct spaces. So they were comfortable with losing the dining room per se. That's a shot looking back the other direction toward where you can see the dinette table in behind the kitchen window there on the other side. So they're really finding that the two spots weren't really that necessary any longer. They all along talked about removing the wall between the kitchen and dining room and transposing the kitchen from where it existed into that dining room space. So that was really where they started before we came in, and sort of had like I said, a preconceived idea as to how that would move. Their kitchen was one of the most difficult spaces to work with, where every doorway has just completely surrounded the kitchen so that you are forced into a little U-shaped area, and they literally had not even 2 feet beside the fridge, and then you have a sink breaking up the other side, the stove breaking up the middle. You've got corners to work in, which is really awkward. And not that they were by any means people who felt that they were gourmet cooks, but they wanted something more functional. That cabinetry you're seeing now backed onto the family room, which they had previously renovated, and we're feeling they needed a little more cabinetry space and something a little more open, conducive to entertaining.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's really no flow to that. You know, you're in one room, then you have to move over to another, then to another, as opposed to being able to just kind of move around seamlessly. It
was very typical of the era of the home that every room was distinctive and sort of its own space, and that was very much the way all of these rooms were laid out. I think there's also a shot of the family room there just to sort of show as a before that they had done some work in their family room, had put some beautiful hardwood in, and they've got a rug over it right there, so you're not seeing it in that particular shot, but had done the fireplace and some cabinetry. So really that became the jumping off point for how we were going to move forward into the kitchen and making those two spaces feel very connected. As we then started to discuss how that came about and started to look at floor plans, it became more and more, well, what if we change the flooring in the front hall? And then, well, then that means the flooring in the powder room and in the laundry room and so on and so forth. So that's where this job started to really expand.
And now you're talking my language, because I really find I need to talk things through. It's not just sitting down and pointing at a picture and saying this. But as soon as you start to hear some of the words come out of your head, you realize no, that's not going to work because of this. So you need somebody to kind of guide the process and be there. And often there can be one or two. You know, does A or B work better for you? And you start to look at it and then decide, okay, what works better for us?
And in this particular instance, I did actually come at it from 3 different points of view and gave them 3 different plan options. And I took one where they knew that what their initial thoughts were wasn't working for them, but knew the idea of wanting to be able to switch the spaces. But I also took a step backward and said, okay, well, how can I try and make the kitchen work in the space that it's in right now and just reorganize some of the entrance ways? So we had done that, but in the end, we did talk about getting back to flipping it around. So, but it's nice to just sort of have someone from outside their home and from outside their perspective be able to come in and really show them the different options. And they were quite impressed with what you could have done inside the space, but how much more it gave them to take out that wall between the spaces and really work with it all.
Right. And I think we've got the floor plan from before, the original floor plan that you were working with, that we can take a look. Oh, we don't have that?
Yeah,
okay, so we now know that we've got all the individual rooms.
That's right.
And it was up to you to sort of make the flow happen
Reorganize.
for what they want and do that. And, you know, that can make a difference for a lot of people. Do you renovate? Do you move? And suddenly you've got this whole new space that you can work with, and
for sure.
Staying put maybe makes sense.
And it was something that they really battled with, I know, from the beginning. So we talked about whether it was worth investing more into the house, and they really decided they loved their neighborhood, and that was the bottom line.
And I think so often that's what it comes down to. You know, the neighbors are great, the neighborhood is great, we love the backyard, all of those things. It's just this space that needs some work.
Exactly.
So it's just putting the work into that space and getting that, well, I can't wait. This is always like a surprise for me. It's like a birthday. You open up the box and see what's coming up. So in just a moment, we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at what happened when Pioneer Craftsman Limited got in there and did the changes for them. So stay with us.